Hello, Internet, so nice to see you. I have an interesting question for you today.
Is there colors associated with scale degrees, etc.? And what do you think of visual colors in relation to sound?
Okay, let me start with a story. There was this evening with three great composers, and they wrote all of them in their diaries. The three composers were Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov, great Russian musician, composer, and his two students, Igor Stravinsky and Sergei Rachmaninoff. If you never heard those names, you're not really a musician. You want to go and Google those people. And they were talking. At a certain point, Stravinsky, the student, and Korsakov, the teacher, were talking about associating notes and keys with colors, and they were discussing if C major is a red or it's green, and they were discussing how they were seeing all this. And the conversation went on for a while until Sergei Rachmaninoff, who was sitting on the sofa saying nothing, at a certain point interrupted them and say, "Wait a moment. You guys are serious? I thought you were pranking me." Because he did not see any color. Okay? Here's the thing. There are some people out there, and when you play them a note or a key or a sound, they associate these with a color. Okay? That's a condition called synesthesia. I say condition, it's not a pathology because there is no distress in having it most of the time, okay? And this is one of the many kind of synesthesia. How many people are like that out there? And nobody knows. Some surveys say 1 every 4. Some surveys say 1 every 10,000. So essentially, we don't know, okay? And there are many different kinds of synesthesia, okay? I have synesthesia myself. I have several different kinds of synesthesia, not this one of the colors. So I don't see the notes or colors. But for instance, I see timbres are colors. So for me, the sound of the trumpet, it's a clearly distinct orange, okay? And I have several other associations. Okay, but the notes don't give me any color feeling. And practically for every pair of senses, you can find people who get a stimulus in one sense and they perceive it as a stimulus in another sense. Okay, so there are all the possible combinations plus a few other interesting things. First of all, we have a problem here: is that if you ask all those people with synesthesia, especially even just the one who associate notes with colors, and you ask them what are the colors of every note, and let's say you pick only the people who really have synesthesia, and we can know which one they are because we interview them. We let 1 year pass and we interview them again. And if their synesthesia is real, they give you the exact same answers. And if the synesthesia is not real, they give you different answers because they're making them up on the spot. But we take only the people who are perfectly consistent that the C note is always red or the C note is always green, whatever. And then we compare them and there is no correspondence. It's something that is internal to the single brain. It's not that there is a natural color for the C note, a natural color for the D note, and so on and so forth. Every person has a different association. So that's the first thing. If you want to associate colors with notes, you can. There's no problem with that. But it's not something universal. There is nothing that connects those things. Okay? Second, there is another problem. We have, like the comment was saying, we are associating the seven notes with the 7 colors. Too bad that we don't have 7 notes and we don't have 7 colors. I mean, we have 7 notes in a scale, but we have 12 notes in the chromatic system. We have 24 notes if you take the Hindu system and the Carnatic system. We have other. If you go in Africa, there are people. There are population that have a system with 5 notes every octaves and so on and so forth. So we don't have 7 notes. Not only that, but we don't have 7 colors. The idea why we have 7 colors was when Newton separated the spectrum of the solar light with a prism, and he wanted to have 7 colors because in his idea 7 was the perfect number. There are 7 notes in a scale, 7 days in the week, and 7 kind of a magic number, and he was a bit mixing his magic and his science, and so there are 7 colors. And so he's distinguishing between blue and indigo. And incidentally, the indigo of Newton is just a dark blue, and he was calling blue what today we call cyan, or cyan, I never know how to pronounce that. Okay, so anyway, big mess there. But we don't have 7 colors. You don't see only 7 colors. Okay, you have a monitor that can have 64 million colors. Okay, so it's not 7 colors. Okay, and so you see that there's not a correspondence at all. The whole way we perceive sound and the whole way we perceive color, it's completely different, okay, which I'm going to see in a moment. And the third thing is this: there is absolutely zero usefulness of using any of these to write music, except that maybe you can have some, I don't know, interesting idea by writing some music about something blue, and blue is a specific key, so you don't have to choose the key. But beyond that, it's really hard to make it useful musically, because your feeling of blue is confined to your own brain, and anybody else is not guaranteed to have the same feeling of blue. Okay? So just making this clear, there is no real usefulness. Now, several composers have composed their own tables, and even if you check those two, even for them, the colors are completely different. Some of them went to it in an intuitive way, so exactly what their brain was telling them, the association, the natural association in their perception system. Others went at this scientifically, like let's divide the octave in 12 parts, and then let's divide the spectrum of light in 12 parts, and then see what color correspond. I mean, sure, but there's really no real correspondence there. Now, here's the thing. If you have synesthesia, good. Again, I'm not complaining. It's kind of a neutral experience. It's not better or worse. It's actually, I was surprised that people did not see or hear things in the same way. But again, it doesn't make any difference, because once you understand how, for instance, that the major chord is generally happier than the minor chord, you don't need to associate with a color to make it work. You can internally in your brain as a mnemonic device, but you don't have to understand how other people think about that. If you don't have synesthesia, you're honestly not losing that much, okay? So again, don't feel bad if you don't have it. Don't feel like you're not special. You could have a very keen sense of hearing anyway. You can write amazing music anyway. And if I have to be perfectly frank, between Rimsky-Korsakov, Igor Stravinsky, and Sergei Rachmaninoff is my favorite. I mean, even if I like the other two a lot, Rachmaninoff is my favorite, and he didn't need any synesthesia or color association to compose absolutely great music. And of course, at this point, somebody is going to tell you, but sound is just frequency. So the higher is the frequency, the higher is the pitch of the note. And color is just frequencies. And the higher is the frequency, the more you go from red to blue or violet. So, of course, the two things work well together. No. And then we can go and see exactly why. Because see, that's the thing. You can hear sounds from around 40 hertz, so 40 vibrations per second, up to around, I mean, you can probably go lower than that. Some people can hear 30, actually. I can't. I start hearing around 50, okay? Young people can hear up to 20,000 hertz, so that's 20 kilohertz, okay? I can't. My hearing at this point is around 16,000, okay? The older you get, the more you lose the top end, okay? And you're never, ever getting it back. So, but let's say you have what? I mean, even assuming you can hear slightly more than that and slightly less than that, you can probably have a factor of 1,000 in between them, okay? If you now, an octave is a factor of 2, okay? If you take these and multiply by 2, you have 60, then you have 120, and then you have 240. And if you keep going, you arrive here around 9 octaves, give or take, okay? It's actually, from here to here, it's 9 octaves and a half. A factor of 1,000 is 10 octaves, okay? If you do your calculation. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 10 times is 1,024, so around 1,000. Okay, so here's the point. You have around 9 to 10 octaves, let's say 9, 10 octaves. That's an important thing for hearing, because hearing doesn't make any sense without the octaves. Because for you, every time we double the frequency, it's the same note, just higher. That's a G on the next octave, that's a G on the next octave, that's a G on the next octave. It's the same note. It's not something like this and say this, which is a different note. So our hearing is based on this idea of compressing the octaves and thinking it's the same thing every octave. Okay? We cannot escape from that. For light, though, rather than frequency, you use wavelength here, but you see from 380 nanometer, okay, nm, my horrible writing, up to 750 nanometer. Okay, that's red. That's the limits are not exactly like they're not here. Most people can actually see less than that. Occasionally you find people who can see more. Okay, this is red. This is a very deep red. This is a very deep violet. Okay, and everything else is in between. The peak of the vision is around 400, which is nanometers, 400, which is a yellowish green. Okay, now this, it's not even twice that. This is not even a single octave. This is like saying that we have, let's assume you meet an alien from Mars and they say they can hear the notes from this C, and they can hear these, and these, but not those last two, and nothing else. And they cannot hear nothing else. That's how limited we are. Okay? Around 10 frets. Okay? That's how many colors we see in the whole electromagnetic spectrum. We see around the equivalent of 10 frets on your guitar. Do we really want to think that all those notes can be compressed in just 10 frets and it makes sense? And it's not even a single octave. We don't have any idea what it is to perceive an octave of color because we cannot see even an octave. Okay, it's bad. Okay, essentially, those two things are completely different. And let's not get started because in the notes, of course, you can compose multiple frequencies to create different kind of notes so that you have a different sound, like a trumpet has different harmonics than a guitar and so on and so forth. And you can do something similar with the colors, only those are not harmonics. And if you mix any of those two or three of those frequencies, you get other colors. And so you have all those strange things so that if you put a green light and a blue light, a blue light and a yellow light, you have green. And if you put a red light and a blue light, you have purple. Purple doesn't exist. So just you know, it's not violet. Purple is what you see when you see a red light and a blue light at the same time. But there is no frequency in the whole spectrum that it's actually purple. So purple technically does not exist. It's not a spectral color. Okay? And a number of other colors are not spectral colors. You just see them because you're trying to make sense of all these signals. So it works in a completely different way. Music works in harmonics that recur in different octaves. Vision works just by mixing light regardless of the octaves. There is no correspondence whatsoever, even at a physical level. Go figure when you go into the eyeball or through the eardrum and then everything goes astray. All those correspondences are really interesting and they can give you good ideas. I'm not saying no. And honestly, it is fun to sit down with friends and say, oh, hear this chord. I hear this chord as kind of a yellowish green. Okay, it is fun. It is interesting. But ultimately, it doesn't really help you making music, and you don't need it to make music either. So it's fascinating. But I would recommend, if you want to write music, actually write music and let go of all those things, unless those things give you some inspiration. Okay? That's the thing. If you want to write music, incidentally, the best thing would be to actually know your fretboard, your chords, how to put chords together into chord progression. This would be a much more useful skill than knowing if the chord is blue or green. And how do you do that? Well, I have a course. It's called Complete Chord Mastery. Come on my website. The link is on one of the corners of the videos here. Click there, read through the intro page, see if you like it. I totally recommend it. It takes everything from scratch and teaches you how to put those chord progressions together and then eventually how to write music. And with this, I hope you had fun learning about synesthesia and the association with sound and color. This is Tommaso Zilli of victoryforguitar.com, and until next time, enjoy.